Have you ever heard about the expression, it's time for the good stuff? Cause today definitely it's that day. I'm going to introduce one of the 7 weapons of Throne and Liberty, the Staff. This video contains a detailed description of how to use the weapon, the skills that you can equip, and some recommended combinations. Mystery Shield is a counter-attack ability that you can use it on a specific time range and do some damage. Now, if the target is ignited, you do additional damage, and if the target is wet, an AoE little pool will spawn on spot that does damage over time. In addition, orbs will spawn by the name of Mana Flow and will empower your next abilities. Chain Thunderbolt. Chain Thunderbolt is a single target skill that does damage, additional damage when you use it on ignited targets, and AoE plus damage when you use it on wet targets. Fire Flame Bullet. A single target skill that also grants the ignition effect to the target. It can be used up to 3 times, each time with reduced cast time but increased mana consumption. Frost Smokescreen is basically a frost field that slows all the enemies while at the same time you blink behind. Wavelength of Heatwave. An AoE skill damage that also grants ignite effect to your target. If the target is already ignited, you will do also additional damage. Inner Composure is a self buff that if you use it when you are wet, it will increase your mana regeneration 2 times. If you are not wet, it will increase your mana consumption efficiency on your skills. Icebreaker Tomb is a single target skill that will freeze your enemy with a certain probability, and after the effect ends, it will grant some slow. If you use it on multiple enemies, it will also slow the targets around. Ice Window is a penetrating attack that passes through enemies in a specified direction. It will slow all the targets in that specific piercing line. Highly Focused is a self buff that will increase your skill reuse speed and also your movement speed. Lightning Strike or Judgment. When you use this skill on wet targets, it will become an AoE skill and hit everyone. If you use it on an ignited target, the skill might be recasted again. Hellfire Meteorite, baby. This skill is an AoE skill with a good range that has also a probability of pushing back the enemies. When you use it on the field, the skill creates an area that grants ignition for a certain amount of time. Those were all the active skills of Staff. Now let's move on to the passive. Mana Goose Quirt. Basic attacks from the Staff and also from the Wand, that is another weapon, have a certain probability to fire additional attacks. Higher the mana regeneration, higher the probability of firing additional attacks. Penance Drunkenness. Mana regeneration increases and the effect is only amplified when your character is static and doesn't move. Mana Amplification, your maximum mana increases. Flame Agulination, the damage from ignition increase. Moving down to the purple passives, Barrier of Repercussions. This skill increases your silence resistance every time you receive a silence. Master of Frost, this should be the daddy of your skills, increases the amount of movement speed reduction and also the duration of the slow. Forbidden Sanctuary, hit more than 2 people with 1 skill, increase your damage reduction over a certain period of time. And we have as the last skill Zenith's Power. This skill is actually a hard skill to explain. Hit more than 2 people with 1 skill. Of skill used per target reduces the use time. Initial hit targets are excluded and up to 3 people are applied. Okay, let's make an example as well so you get a better image of what this passive does. Let's say that I used Thunderbolt to my target, the targets were wet, my Thunderbolt passed through 3 more targets. Since I hit 3 more targets, I'm gonna get a reduced cooldown to my Thunderbolt for, let's say, if it is 2 seconds for each target I hit it, besides my original target, I'm gonna get 6 seconds reduced cooldown on that skill. If I hit my original target and 2 more, I will get, instead of, for example, 4 seconds cooldown reduction on my Thunderbolt. That's it. And that was all for the passives. Moving on to some weapon recommendations, of course it would be Staff and Wand, as you have as well the passive. Beginning with some debuffs from the Wand, you sleep the target, and since the target is slept, you have all the time to cast your Meteorite. The area will get ignited, and on top of that, Heat Wave that does additional damage to ignited targets. And some other recommendations along with Longbow, debuff, You'd Root, You have all the time to cast your meteorite, ignited and the area gets ignited to cast your fire flame bullets, and on top of that you can finish with your lightning strike of judgment twice as the target is ignited. That was everything regarding the stuff. Thanks for watching guys, and until next time, see ya!